I like this has a light on it, this camera. Gave one Dead Sea Scrolls. As of now, I have no hands for heel toe.
We are hiking up to the top where the Dead Sea Scroll cave number 1 is. This is where the shepherd boy threw a rock in and heard pottery crack and break, and he went in and discovered scrolls. This was in about 1947. So we're on our way hiking up, and cave 1, there were 7 major scrolls, 2 copies of Isaiah, 1 complete, the very famous Isaiah scroll, and 1 that was fragmentary. Also was found the Manual of Discipline, the War Scroll, the Thanksgiving Hymns, the Genesis Apocryphon, the Pesher or Commentary on Habakkuk, and about 72 other texts. So this was a major find. It is the most important discovery for biblical studies in history. So this is very important discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls, and we're hiking up to cave 1. The texts of the Dead Sea Scrolls date from roughly to the end of the 3rd century to about 70 AD. Some believe these were hidden in there, so when Titus came and destroyed the city of Jerusalem, they hid them in these caves to preserve these texts. Others were probably written by the Qumran community, just a little further down.
This is kind of like a pass.
And they were written mainly on leather, some papyrus, and one of the most famous ones was written on copper, the Copper Scrolls, which 2 of them that were found in Cave 3. It lists amazing treasures, but no treasure has been found in the places that they say in the scroll. We are almost near the top, or I should say we're almost near cave number 1. And we'll see what's inside the cave.
Of all time, cave number 1, the Dead Sea Scrolls. You can see why I love places like this and I don't like places like Masada. Masada is gorgeous, but there's nobody here. They're all going over there where a pile of rocks is. And
yeah, we don't like those places either, but
yeah,
when it comes to this part of the world, it's a little different.
Yep. Now let me explain a few things before we go in. If you want to just kind of gather right here. This, by the way, is modern pottery. We brought this with a prop that we were doing with Randall Price when we did an interview here.
Randall Price is here.
Yeah, Randall, he digs right down there. He's a good friend of mine.
Really?
Yeah.
I love this book.
Yeah, he's great. So we did a shoot here with him, and we brought a modern replica of a scroll container up here to do the shoot. And I'm sure people have been collecting their ancient pottery ever since. Okay, so you'll see these openings right here. Those were not here. These are the excavation that opened up these. The only thing that was an opening to this cave at the time of its discovery was this little hole up here, and that is what the shepherd boy, when he lost his goat, he threw a rock down in there, and then he heard pottery break, He climbed in there thinking he'd discovered something great and was very disappointed to find these ancient texts. And so anyways, and then they came and did the excavation. Most of the scrolls that come out of this cave, including the two intact, complete Isaiah scrolls that came out of here, were found in the excavation, not by the Bedouin shepherd.
So what did he find?
He found scrolls, but I'll show you when we get in here.
No, I have a light on this.
Maybe. Video creepy.
I definitely have a light on this camera.
You want me out of your picture?
No, I want you in the picture.
Oh, okay.
Trying to
So you
find
have to come over, baby. That's right, that's enough. Yeah. Right. Control to the cave if you want.
Wow, that's awesome.
So, here, I'll let Steve get in here before I explain.
If you get a picture going out, that would be good too.
I'm trying to find flash. Do you know where it is almost?
Oh, yeah. Good.
So I do have a light.
So, the way that it worked is, here's the opening that you're looking at from the inside, and then from right at the base of that opening, dirt came down from there like this and sloped down like this. And right about here were the jars that were broken when he threw the rocks in. And then when the archaeologists came here, they excavated in through that rock. Those are not natural openings. They broke those open and excavated in. And when they did, most of where Stephen and Abigail are standing, most of the scroll jars were found right there under that sediment. They've been purposely buried, and the entrance to the cave in ancient times had been plugged up and buried, and then over time it had come loose. And so we have two scrolls, complete scrolls, that are found here. One of them is older than the other one. One comes from about 200 BC, and the other one closer to the time of, you know, the 1st century AD. And it's very important. And there is no difference in meaning between the two, but there is slight differences in grammar and stuff like that. And that's because of the phenomenon that what changes over time is language. All languages, including the ancient languages, change over time. Words are spelled differently, and things are punctuated differently. Well, they didn't have punctuation, but anyways, so you have those kinds of variations. And a good example is if the church that you go to was excavated 1,000 years from now, they would find a bunch of Bibles there, and they would all agree in meaning, but they wouldn't all agree in, you know, specifics like what word was used to describe the same thing, and so on and so forth. You would have King James, you'd have New King James, you'd have NIV, you'd have New American Standard, and so on and so forth. Yet everybody in that congregation could glean God's word and the meaning of what he was communicating to us, and it was the same in ancient times. And so that's why one Isaiah scroll and another one differs in slight ways, but the meaning is the same. And I think, as we were talking about in the car, the most significant thing is, think about this. Think about the story in, I believe it's in Luke, or it's in one of the Gospels, where Jesus goes into the synagogue in Nazareth, right?
Oh, yes.
He stands before the synagogue, and they hand him the scroll of Isaiah. And he unrolls it to the perfect place, which is today Isaiah 61:1, which says the anointed one. It's the name of what in Hebrew means Messiah, the anointed one. And he goes through and he reads that. And then he sits down and everybody turns to him and looks at him and he says, "Today this is fulfilled in your midst." And the amazing thing about that is that the scroll, the Isaiah scroll that he was reading from, that story is not as old as the scroll that was found in this cave. And so like you were saying, we have all the messianic prophecies. You know, I mean, Isaiah is the messianic prophet. We have all of those prophecies preserved before 150 to 200 years before Jesus of Nazareth was born. We also have in a fragment from cave number 4, Micah 5:2, where it says that the Messiah would be born in Bethlehem of Ephrathah. We just celebrated Christmas. Well, guess what? It dates to 150 BC, 150 years before Jesus of Nazareth would be born in Bethlehem of Ephrathah. I mean, we have, if you take all the fragments from Daniel and put them together, we have almost the entire scroll that tells us when the Messiah would die, that he would die, and then the city of Jerusalem and the temple would be destroyed, and that has only happened one time in history, from the time Daniel penned it till today, and that's in the death of Jesus before the 70 AD destruction of Jerusalem and the temple. So we have not just the reliability issues of the Bible covered here, but we have the authority of the Bible as God's Word covered here, because he's proven to us that he can indeed predict the Bible, which ironically out of Isaiah is the test that he's mocking the idol.